Hey, it's Naomi LaChance with TYT Politics. I'm here today with Ben Jealous, who just announced his candidacy for governor of Maryland. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you.
So you announced your candidacy in Baltimore. Why'd you choose Baltimore?
We chose my cousin's flower shop, Baltimore Blossoms. It's a great name. It was started just after the uprisings, and it speaks to the yearnings and the power of the people of Baltimore, the people of our great state, to move our state forward no matter what else is happening. And that's what we need to be doing right now. Of course we have to resist Trump and his horrible policies, but we also have to get ready to move beyond resistance, to actually move our cities and our counties and our states forward no matter what's happening in Washington.
And moving beyond resistance, what does that look like to you?
It means, frankly, seizing the power that we have. We as progressives for generations now have mourned the transfer of power from our federal government to our state governments. But in this moment, when extreme right-wingers control every branch of our federal government, it's time for us just to embrace what is and use the power in our states for good, to move our children's opportunities forward, to move our state forward, our families forward, to make it possible to actually put a high-quality teacher in every classroom, or to hold police officers who have killed unarmed civilians accountable, or to ensure that everybody here has access to health care.
Current Maryland Governor Larry Hogan, he's a Republican, he vetoed a bill that would ensure 5 days of paid sick leave for workers in small businesses, saying it would be disastrous for the economy. What do you think would be too much paid sick leave?
The reality is that everybody who's working needs the same thing, right? You need a dependable schedule. You need a fair wage. And you need to know that when you're sick, you can take care of yourself. You need to have health care. Our governor had an opportunity to stand up for working people, and he sat down instead.
So this was 5 days. What do you think seems appropriate?
Folks need at least 5 days. I think most folks would say they need at least 2 weeks. The reality is that you can get sick and your child can get sick. And no worker should fear losing their job because they need to stay home to take care of a sick kid, or frankly, not stay home to take care of themselves so they don't go to work and spread that virus to somebody else.
On a sort of similar note, you've said you're in favor of a $15 an hour minimum wage.
Yeah.
What do you see as the highest it could go?
Right now, we have an opportunity to ensure that work pays again in our state, that every parent can go to bed at night knowing that just working a 40-hour week is enough to cover the basic necessities for their family. The reality is that nobody wants a minimum job more than you want a minimum house or a minimum car. But we've got to set a floor somewhere. And the reality is that if the minimum wage had kept up with inflation, it'd be at $15. If it had kept up with productivity, it'd be at $19. It seems to me like $15 is a reasonable place to start. So let's go ahead and make that happen for working families across our state.
So you were previously a fellow at the Center for American Progress,
Sure.
And emails, when you came out in favor of Bernie, emails in the Podesta WikiLeaks hack showed them pretty unhappy with you having done that, maybe a little bit betrayed. How far are you gonna compromise in terms of engaging Democrats across and the left across the spectrum?
I'm a proud progressive whose entire career has been grounded in my years as a community organizer and as a civil rights leader. I have a track record of standing up despite the odds, despite the heat, to do the right thing. Did that here when I led the state, built a movement here that succeeded in abolishing the death penalty. Did that again in the same year here when it was time to actually help pull in black leadership to pass marriage equality. Did it again that same year when it was time to, again, pull in leadership across the state to pass the DREAM Act. And I'm sure I've gone to jail for protests more than anybody else who's running for governor across this country. But, the reality is that, CAP is supposed to be a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization. So I'm not sure why my colleagues there, if they felt betrayed. by me standing up with Bernie. I'm a progressive, and I stood up with a very proudly progressive candidate to push for the sorts of policies that we talked about as fellows. So, you know, it's this is all you can do is run it as yourself. And for my entire life, you know, I'm the children of organizers. I started out working as a community organizer when I was 18, and I'm going to run like the proud progressive community organizer that I am.
Absolutely. So a young black man, Richard Collins III, was stabbed to death at the University of Maryland. I know you attended his funeral, yeah. And so the University of Maryland did make some changes, but I know a lot of leaders have said they're not enough. What do you think?
I think leaders across the state right now are on a journey trying to figure out what is going on, that we've had 2 young white men stab black men to death, apparently just because of their race, just in the past 6 months. One from around Towson went up to New York City, pulled out a sword and killed a black man. One at College Park pulled out a long knife, killed his fellow student. It's like the story of Cain and Abel. I commend all of those who have dug down deep and asked the question, what more? What more can we do? There's been a lot of good first steps, but we've got to stay on that journey. The thing that inspires me most, I was at his memorial at Bowie State, I was at his funeral, is the resilience of his family and the commitment of his friends and his classmates at Bowie State and at College Park. Young people coming together across lines of race and religion to say, we're going to move forward together. We're going to create the world that we're destined to create, a more inclusive, vibrant, productive place. And we're not going to fall victim to the hate. And that's frankly where I put my hope. I put my hope with your generation. I put my hope with the young people rising up in this state for whom, frankly, the history of division and oppression matters less in shaping how they comport their own lives.
Maryland Democrats have said that if funding to Planned Parenthood, federal funding gets cut, they will come in and provide that funding instead. A Planned Parenthood in Silver Spring was just shut down. How are you going to help ensure that people have proper reproductive care?
And my grandma's 100 years old. She started her career working for Planned Parenthood in Baltimore in 1940. My family has always been supportive and raised me to be the same way of a woman's right to choose and to control her own destiny, and to, you know, as well as the struggle to ensure that everybody who needs quality health care gets access to it. Planned Parenthood sits right at the juncture of both of those movements, of both of those needs. We must, as a state in this moment, be prepared to provide quality, affordable health care to everybody in Maryland, no matter what happens in Washington. And I commend my colleagues, frankly, the Democrats at the state capitol for the leadership they've shown on this issue.
Okay.
You're doing great.
Thank you.
I started out as a journalist when I was 20.
Oh, wow. So you're a member of the Advisory Council at Financial Solutions Lab, which is a project at JP Chase. It's not a... No.
JP Chase is one of their funders.
Okay.
So just to be clear, I mean, just go off record background so you're clear.
We're live.
Okay, so, yeah, I mean, I'm a advisory board member to the Center to CFSI. One of their supporters is JP Chase, but it's not a project of JP Chase. Those are two very different things.
It's housed on their website.
Again, go check out CFSI. I think you need to do more research on CFSI.
Okay. Then I do have another question for you, which is you are a visiting professor at Princeton's Woodrow Wilson School.
Yeah.
Some African-American students have called for Woodrow Wilson's name to be removed for the legacy that he represents,
Absolutely.
for segregating the federal government. Yeah. How should we engage with that history?
Look, I mean, I'm a visiting professor, so my power on the matter is limited. But I've been very supportive of my students, both publicly and privately. in their quest to get the name removed. He was a member of the Ku Klux Klan. And while I agree with folks who say, generally, like, when buildings were named a long time ago, we should respect the history, there are exceptions. And members of terrorist organizations are one of the things that we make exceptions for.
I mean, how do you deal with being at that school then?
Well, I mean, the same way I think that anybody. I mean, the reality. What college did you go to?
I went to Bard College.
Have you dug into the history of the Northeastern liberal arts schools and where their money came from?
Sure.
The reality is I went to Columbia University. I'm a Rhodes Scholar. You look at Brown University, it feels like it's miles away from slavery, and yet it was funded by slavery.
But you're at a school that's named after a KKK member.
I'm at school teaching young people today, one of the few schools in the Ivy League where students accumulate no debt. And the reality is that in our society, the way that we change things is that we engage, that we get involved, that we add our voices, that we add our support, and we keep pushing. When I was a student, we got, we succeeded at Columbia in getting a center to teach about the history of people of color in this country, to actually include us into the curriculum and ethnic studies department. We fought that fight for 25 years. If you give up and you walk away, the great victories don't happen. That's how you change things, is you dig in and you fight. That's what my life has been as an organizer, and that's what we as progressives are when we're at our best. If you just sort of tuck tail and walk away, nothing changes.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time. This is Ben Jealous. He's running for governor of Maryland.
Thank you.
Thank you.